Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the newspaper dated 5th November 2019, and the articles that we will discuss are displayed on your screen. So let us start our discussion. Now this article on page number 1 talks about India not joining the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or the RCEP. And India has cited that if India joins the RCEP in its present format, it will hurt its farmers, businesses, workers and consumers. So in this article, we will try and understand what is RCEP and which all countries have joined this RCEP or Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Further, what would happen if India joins this RCEP as to what will be the impact on its exports and imports. And further, what would be the impact on India if India remains out of this RCEP? The third aspect that we will look at is the India's concerns related to this RCEP. After that, we will try and look at why India wants to join the RCEP in the first place, or why was India interested in this RCEP deal. And finally, how the China factor plays in India joining this RCEP. And finally, we will look at what India should do, or what are the areas which require India's attention before joining this RCEP deal. So now the present status is that the RCEP deal has been finalized. However, India has not joined this RCEP. However, as the news article reads, India can join RCEP at a later stage also, provided all the issues which have been raised by India are resolved. So first let us look at the basics as to which all countries are the part of RCEP and what are the key important facts and figures related to this RCEP or the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Now originally RCEP was a proposed free trade agreement between 16 nations, and these free trade agreement was between 10 ASEAN members and its 6 free trade agreement partners. So the 10 ASEAN countries are the 10 Southeast Asian countries, and the 6 free trade agreement partners are China, Japan, India, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. However, as the trade deal has been finalized, India has withdrawn from this RCEP deal. However, all other 5 free trade partners and the 10 ASEAN countries have joined this RCEP. Now, if India was a part of this RCEP, it would have accounted for 25% of the world GDP, that is 1/4 of the world GDP. Secondly, it would have accounted for 30% of the world trade, 26% of the foreign direct investment flow, and 45% of world's population. Further, the combined trade of the RCEP members stands at about $2.7 trillion. So these figures show that this RCEP could have played a key role in the global economy. And with increasing integration, RCEP would have stood as one of the biggest and largest economic bloc in the world. However, now as India has withdrawn from this RCEP, the RCEP would account for only 1/3 of the global GDP. And further, without India, RCEP would account for only 1/3 of the world's population as against the proposed 45% of the world's population. So this shows that India would have been one of the important partners in this RCEP deal. However, India has chosen to remain out of this RCEP because of various concerns. So after this, let us look at what would have been the impact on India's trade if India joined this RCEP deal. Now, what is the present status of India's exports and imports with the existing countries which are participating in the RCEP? So if you look at the figures, the RCEP countries presently account for almost 27% of India's total trade. So this reflects that RCEP countries are important for India's trade relations. And that is why India wanted to join this RCEP deal. Secondly, exports to these RCEP countries account for about 21% of India's total exports. And as far as the imports are concerned, India imports from RCEP countries, and these comprise about 34% of India's total imports. So these figures reflect that these countries which are part of the RCEP are important trading partners of India. However, the biggest concern that India has is that out of the 15 countries in the RCEPs, India has trade deficit with almost 11 countries. And this total trade deficit stands at about $105 billion. Now, out of this huge trade deficit, China accounts for about $53 billion of the trade deficit alone, which means that 50% of the trade deficit of India with the RCEP countries is with China. And that is why this is one of the biggest concern of India joining the RCEP deal, because it runs trade deficit with one of the important partners of RCEP, that is China. Now, there are certain products in which India has trade surplus. However, there are many more products in which India has a trade deficit. For example, India runs trade surplus in agriculture and allied products, textiles, gems and jewelries. However, India's concern is that if India joins this RCEP deal, these trade surpluses in the fields of agriculture, textiles, gems and jewelries could be wiped off. And that is mainly because India would be forced to reduce tariffs on the imports related to these products. Further, another concern that India has is that the products in which India has trade surplus account for only a small portion in the deficit with other commodities. So there are many more commodities in which India has a trade deficit, and it only has trade surplus in few products. And that is one of the biggest concern of India as far as joining the RCEP is concerned. Now, the items in which India has huge deficits is related to electrical machinery, iron and steel, electronics, etc. So these are the figures related to the exports and imports of India with the RCEP countries. And the biggest concern is that India has huge trade deficit with China in the RCEP. Now, diplomatically and economically, what would be the impact if India does not join the RCEP? Or what would be the impact on India if it does not join the RCEP? So it is said that diplomatically, India will stand losing a great opportunity to be a part of world's biggest trade bloc. And as China has already become a member of this RCEP, it will end up completely dominating the trade in this Southeast Asian and Pacific region. Further, we note that India wants to become an export-oriented economy. However, if India remains out of this RCEP deal, it would affect India's export ambitions. And thirdly, India stands to lose out on important opportunities like global supply chain management and high-end goods. So these are few impacts that are likely to occur if India does not join this RCEP in the near future. Now, why is India not joining this RCEP, or what are the concerns of India as far as the RCEP is concerned? So India has said that India wants these issues to be resolved first, and only after these issues are resolved, India will become a member of the RCEP. So after this, let us look at what are the various issues and what is India's stand and what is the stand of other RCEP members. Now, the first concern of India is related to the base year for tariffs. And in this, India has said that the base year should be 2019. And this is because India has raised tariffs between 2014 to 2019. However, majority of the countries in the RCEP have said that the base year for the calculation of tariffs should be 2013, and that is when the talks started for this RCEP. Now, for example, if on a product P, the tariff imposed by India was about 10% in the year 2014. And in the year 2019, this tariff has been raised to about 15%. So India wants that any change in the tariff should be based on this year, that is the base year, which should be 2019. So for example, all the countries agree to reduce tariff on this product. It should be reduced on the 2019 tariff, that is 15%. So for example, if the countries decide to reduce the tariffs by 2% on this product P, it should be on the 2019 tariff, that is 15%. So it will be reduced to only 13%. However, the other countries want that this reduction in the tariff should be on the base year 2014's tariffs, which means that the reduced tariff would now be only 8%. So in this line, India has said that the base year for the tariffs calculation should be year 2019. And why is it so? This is mainly because India has raised various tariffs between 2014 to 2019. So if any fall in tariff occurs, it would not impact India adversely. However, most of the countries which are participating in the RCEP have said that the base year for the tariffs calculation should be 2013, and that is exactly when the RCEP talks started. Now, second is related to the freedom to increase tariff or decrease tariff rates. So in this, India's stand is that there should be freedom to increase the tariff rates. So for example, if on a product P, the tariff is about 10%, India says that it should be free to increase or reduce the tariff. However, the other countries which are participating in RCEP have agreed that once the tariffs are reduced on one product P, it can never go up and it should only go down. So for example, if the tariff on product P is reduced from 10 to 8, it cannot again be made 9. However, it can further be reduced to 7. Third issue is related to the rules of origin of the products. Now, India wants that the rule of origin of products should strictly be from the country of import. However, other countries have agreed that the rules of origin of any product can be anywhere within the RCEP region. Now, what the rules of origin mean is that it means the country where the product which is being imported by India originates. Now, for example, if there is a product P, and if India is importing this product from China, it should also be produced in China only. Now, what is the concern here? So, you should understand that on this product P which India imports, if India has a tariff of 10% for China, and on the other hand, if India has a tariff of about 7% for import of the same product from Indonesia, what China would do is that it would route that product from Indonesia towards India. And that is how it can avoid being charged with higher tariffs for exports to India or on Indian imports. So India strictly wants that the rules of origin should be from the country of import. So whatever product India is importing from Indonesia should be originated in Indonesia only and should not be routed by any other country through Indonesia. So this was just an example. So India has said that the rules of origin should strictly be from the country of import only. However, other countries have said that such rules of import can be anywhere from within the RCEP region. Further, regarding the tariff lines, India has said that it should be possible for India to have country-specific negotiations regarding different tariffs on different products. However, other RCEP countries have agreed that there should be more or less uniform tariffs on all the participating countries. So India says that India should have possibility of negotiating different tariffs for different countries, or there should be country-specific negotiation on tariffs on different products. Now the next issue is related to the issue of data localization, and we have covered this issue of data localization in one of the previous DNS videos. Now in this regard, India wants that all the multinational companies which are operating in India should store the data of its citizens in India only, and it should not be stored in any other country. However, other RCEP countries have said that there should be free flow of data except for national security purposes, which means that there should be free flow of data of different people of different countries for economic purposes. Now the next issue is related to the safeguard mechanism. Now what is this safeguard mechanism? So here you should note that when there is exceptional surge in imports of some of products, the countries impose high duty on those products. Now the issue here is that India wants an auto trigger mechanism in case of import surge. So if India sees that there is increased surge in imports of some products, it should be able to impose these safeguard duties. However, the RCEP countries are saying that such safeguard duties should only be imposed in exceptional cases and there should not be any auto trigger mechanism, which means that such safeguard duties should be imposed only after negotiation with the other countries. So these are few issues between India and other RCEP countries, and these are mainly related to the base year, the ratchet clause, rules of origin, tariff lines, data localization and safeguard mechanisms. Now after this, let us look at, despite all the issues and concerns which have been raised by India, why is India tempted to join RCEP? Now we note that India has trade deficits with various RCEP countries. However, India sees this as an opportunity, and that is mainly because of its service sector. And if you look at the trade balance in the service sector, India has had a surplus in the service sector in the past 3 to 4 years. However, it has had trade deficit in the merchandise products. Now we note that India's merchandise trade has been in deficit since 1977, and in the last decade this has stood at about $1.4 trillion. So in this background, as India's service sector is its strength, India wants that if it becomes part of RCEP and by increasing the service sector exports, India can benefit and reduce this trade deficit in merchandise and other products. And further, trade and services are in surplus and they are growing at a strong rate. And that is why RCEP could provide a boost to India's service exports. Now, although India is tempted to join this RCEP, let us look at how India's previous trade deals have fared. Now, it is said that India's track record has not been very good when it comes to free trade agreements. And this is reflected in the utilization rates of free trade agreements by India. And this stands at about 25%. So what all benefits were likely to arise out of these free trade agreements previously did not arise in case of India. And India could only make use and benefit of about 25% of the clauses of the existing free trade agreements. Further, India has had a free trade agreement with the ASEAN countries. However, the merchandise trade deficit has widened to about $14.6 billion presently. Further, the import duties foregone during the last 3 years are about $10.3 billion. Now, what import duties foregone means is that if India did not come into any free trade agreement, what would have been India's earnings from these import duties? Further, India has had a free trade agreement with South American trade bloc, that is Mercosur. And with that trade bloc also, India runs a trade deficit. And finally, India also runs a trade deficit with African countries. Now, all this data shows that India has not benefited much from these free trade agreements previously. Now, after this, let us look at the China factor in India's withdrawal from the RCEP. Now, we know that India is running a trade deficit with China. And China accounts for over 50% of India's trade deficit. Now, what trade deficit means is that India is importing more from China and is exporting less to the China. And which can be seen in this graph, which shows data of imports and exports from the year 2010 till the year 2018 and 19. Now, these figures show that the rate of growth of exports has not been very good in case of India's exports to China. However, the imports from China have increased till the year 2017 and 18. And they have only witnessed a dip in the year 2018 to 19. Further, India's trade deficit with China has risen 13-fold in the past decade. And what India exports to China are mainly primary products, which means that it only includes ores, minerals and cotton. However, India imports manufactured products from China, which means that India is importing high value products from China while it is exporting low value products to the China. And this is one of the reasons for trade deficit with China. Now, India's biggest concern is that in the background of this existing high trade deficit with China, if India joins RCEP, and the tariffs on various products are lowered, then China will dump India's markets with cheap exports and cheap products. And that is likely to worsen the trade deficit that exists between India and China, which is already very high, and it stands at about 50% of India's total trade deficit with all other countries. Now, what all areas should be focused by India before joining and deciding to join this RCEP deal? So, first is that India should enhance its exports. Now, as we have learned that India already runs trade deficits with 11 of the members of the RCEP. So, this shows that this figure of trade deficit can only be reduced if India works on its exports. Secondly, India should also work on building the manufacturing capabilities, and that is mainly because India has lagged behind in the manufacturing sector. And that is one of the reasons why China is flooding Indian markets with manufactured products. Third is that India should also focus on making high value goods at a competitive price. And we know that the major articles of exports from India are primary products, and they are not high value manufactured or finished products. And a corollary of this is that India should also focus on innovation and research. And India should capitalize on its existing advantages in the service sector, because we know that the service sector exports have increased. And that is why India should further leverage on this capability and advantage which it is already having in the service sector. So in this article, we have understood what is RCEP and what was the economic importance of RCEP for the global economy. After this, we looked at the trade deficit of India with various RCEP countries and what would have happened to India's exports and imports if India chose to join this RCEP. Further, what are the likely economic and diplomatic impacts if India does not join this RCEP? And after that, we have looked at various concerns which have been raised by India regarding the various clauses of the RCEP deal. After that, we looked at as to why India was tempted to join the RCEP and how have the previous free trade agreements of India with various other trade blocs and countries fared in the past. After that, we looked at the China factor in India withdrawing from the RCEP. And finally, what all areas need to be focused before India joins RCEP. Now, after this discussion, you can try and answer this question from your mains examination point of view. And with this, let's take up the next article. Now, this article on page number 10 talks about the integration of the scientific medical system with that of the traditional medicine system of India. And in this, the author has highlighted various challenges of integrating the AYUSH medicine system, which includes the Ayurveda, Yoga, Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy with that of the modern medicine system. So this will fall under General Studies paper 2 under the topic Issues Relating to the Health Sector. Now in this, the author has highlighted that India should take cues from the Chinese experience, where they have integrated the modern scientific medicine with that of the traditional Chinese medicine system. And further, India can integrate the education, research and practice of both the modern scientific medicine system with that of its AYUSH system, which the government has launched. So in this, let us look at what are these traditional medicine systems of India. Further, what are the advantages of this AYUSH system and what are the challenges in implementing and integrating this AYUSH system with the modern medicine system. Now, the AYUSH traditional medicine system of India consists of Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha and the Homeopathy systems. And all these medicine systems have been practiced in India since ages. And that is why these are known as the traditional medicine systems of India. Now, the Ayurvedic system incorporates all aspects of life, which include physical, psychological, spiritual, and social. And the Ayurvedic remedies find their references in the antique Vedic texts of India. However, it is the Atharva Veda which mainly deals with the extensive Ayurvedic information. And that is why it is said that Ayurveda is one of the offshoots of the Atharva Veda. which is part of the four important Vedas of India. Further, regarding yoga, you should note that it is one of the six systems of Vedic philosophy of India. Now, you might be knowing that various Vedic philosophies in India have been formulated in the ancient India, and some of these include Mimamsa, Vaisasika, etc. And yoga is one of them. And it is associated with Maharshi Patanjali, who is known to have compiled and refined various aspects of yoga into Yoga Sutras. And further, he advocated an eightfold path of yoga, which is known as the Ashtanga Yoga. The next system is the Unani system, and it was introduced in India by the Arabs and the Persians. And it was around 11th century that this Unani system was introduced in India. And it has also been traditionally practiced in India. Further, regarding Siddha, you should note that it is considered to be one of the oldest systems of medicine in India. And there are about 18 Siddhas who are said to have contributed towards the development of this medical system. Now, the Siddha literature has been written in Tamil language, and it is practiced largely in the Tamil speaking parts of India and abroad. Further, homeopathy is based on natural law of healing, which is known as similia similibus curantur, which means likes are cured by likes, and it was first conceptualized by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann in the early 19th century. And as far as the Sowa Rigpa system of medicine is concerned, it is a traditional Tibetan medicine system, and it is also one of the oldest. Further, it has been originated from Tibet and is popularly practiced in parts of India, Nepal, Bhutan, Mongolia, and Russia. And many of the theories of Sowa Rigpa practice are similar to that of Ayurveda. So these are few points related to the traditional medicine systems of India, which are part of the AYUSH system. And some of the points that we have discussed can be important for us from preliminary examination point of view. So after this, let us look at what are the advantages of the AYUSH system and what are the challenges which are being faced by this AYUSH traditional medicine system. Now, the first advantage of the AYUSH system arises because of various issues with the allopathic system or the modern medicine system. And first in this line is that the modern medicine system do not offer cure for all kinds of illnesses. Secondly, there is huge gap in the demand and supply of the medical practitioners. And it is stated that the medical practitioner to population ratio in India stands at about 76 medical practitioners per lakh population. And another disadvantage of the allopathic system is that it is largely concentrated in urban areas, which means that the reach of this allopathic system in the rural areas is almost negligible. However, AYUSH system has certain advantages, and these include the high social acceptability of the AYUSH traditional medicine system. Further, this social acceptability is because of its traditional nature and also because of lower side effects of the AYUSH medicine systems. Further, these systems are considered to be relatively cheaper. And also, they have greater reach in the rural areas as compared to the allopathic system. So these are some of the advantages of using AYUSH traditional medicine system. However, this system is facing certain challenges. And these are related to lack of premier research institutions, which leads to lack of proper scientific research. Further, scientific validation of basic concepts in these traditional medicine systems is missing. And also, surgical procedures are not that prevalent as compared to the allopathic system. And another challenge is that the focus in these medicine systems have been on cosmetization or on commercialization. And because of focus of companies on commercialization of these products, there has been lack of scientific research in these traditional medicine systems. Further, in this article, the author has stated that there is a need for integration of the traditional AYUSH medicine systems with our modern medicine system. However, the issue is that the AYUSH medical system has been functioning in isolation and there has been no synergy in the functioning of both these medical systems. Now, one of the reasons for the lack of integration of AYUSH with the modern medicine system is the lack of scientific research in these systems. And because of this, the traditional modern medicine practitioners are not ready to integrate these systems with their practicing. On the other hand, the AYUSH system practitioners are also skeptical of joining or integrating with the modern medicine system. And that is mainly because of fears of loss of identity of these traditional systems. So these are few challenges and problems that have been highlighted by the author regarding the integration of the AYUSH medicine systems with the modern medicine systems. Now, despite all these challenges, the government of India has been taking various steps to make the AYUSH system more authentic and increase its reach. And that is why they have created the Ministry of AYUSH to oversee the growth of these traditional medicine systems. Further, a national AYUSH mission has been launched, which aims at promoting these traditional systems and also aims at making these medicines affordable. Further, the government has also created AYUSH wings in railways and defense hospitals. And further, the government of India has decided that it will create 12,500 dedicated AYUSH health and wellness centers under the Ayushman Bharat program. Now, although the government of India is taking various steps to increase the reach of the AYUSH medicine system, the focus has to be on integration of these systems with the modern medicine system. And a prime example in this case is the China. And this is mainly because China has been able to integrate its traditional system with the modern medicine. And that has mainly because of early start of the Chinese government, and they started integrating the traditional system with the modern system as early as in 1950. However, to increase the authenticity of the AYUSH systems, the government should focus on proper and authentic scientific research in these systems. And also, there is a need for standardization and regulation of the AYUSH practices and practitioners. So these are few points related to the AYUSH traditional medicine systems, and also there were few challenges with the integration of AYUSH system with the modern medicine systems. With this, let's take up the next article. Now, this article on page number 11 has been written regarding the safety of banks' deposits. And this has been written in the context of recent crisis of Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, or the PMC Bank. Now, because of the failure of this PMC Bank, it has ignited a debate on the low level of insurance coverage for deposits which are held by public in various banks. Now, normally the bank deposits are considered to be safe. However, the recent crisis in the PMC Bank highlights that even such kind of deposits needs to be insured. So this article highlights how the safety of bank deposits can be increased. So this will form a part of the General Studies paper 3 under the topic Economic Development. And in this, let us look at what is meant by insurance of bank deposits and how can this safety of bank deposits be increased. Now first, let us look at the way in which the bank deposits are insured in the present times. So currently, there is an organization by the name Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, or DICGC, and it provides for insurance cover of rupees 1 lakh per depositor for deposits in commercial banks, regional rural banks, local area banks and cooperative banks. Now regarding the premium for these insurance, it is paid by the banks and hence the cost is not borne directly by the deposit holder. So any person who is depositing in the banks need not insure his amount in the bank. And the premium for these insurances is paid by the banks themselves. Now, one important problem that arises due to this is that in case of bank failures, the depositors can get back a maximum of rupees 1 lakh per account only. And this cap of 1 lakh is for every depositor, despite these depositors having deposits more than rupees 1 lakh. So even for a person who has deposited rupees 10 lakh, the maximum insurance amount is only rupees 1 lakh per account. Now the issue due to this mechanism that arises is that the depositors who are holding less than rupees 1 lakh in their accounts are covered by this deposit insurance. However, those people or depositors who have deposited more than rupees 1 lakh are not insured under this kind of insurance. And that is mainly because they can only get maximum of rupees 1 lakh per account even if their deposit is more than rupees 1 lakh. Thus, this shows that there is no legal remedy in case of a collapse of a bank for depositors whose deposit exceeds more than rupees 1 lakh. So in this line, the author has highlighted various steps that need to be taken to increase the safety of banks' deposits. Now, how to increase the safety of the bank deposits? Now, we know that according to the present norms, the maximum money that a depositor can get is rupees 1 lakh. So there is a need to increase in the deposit insurance amount. Now, presently this insurance limit is of only rupees 1 lakh, and this was set in the year 1993. So in this line, the author has highlighted that this amount needs to be raised to at least rupees 15 lakh. And by doing this, almost 90% of the deposits in the banks will be covered. Secondly, there is a need for expanding the coverage of insurance. Now, presently, these insurances, although low, are only available for bank deposits, and they are not available for deposit-taking non-banking financial companies or NBFCs. And we know that presently the NBFCs are mainly facing crisis, and also these NBFCs have more reach in rural areas which are more vulnerable. Thus, the author has suggested that the insurance coverage of Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation should be extended even to the deposit-taking NBFCs. Further, the author has said that flexibility of insurance should be provided to the customers also. Now, presently we know that the entire insurance premium is borne by the banks. And in order to expand the insurance coverage, the customers should be given flexibility to avail higher insurance amount on their deposits by paying additional premium to the DICGC. So this means that the customers should be given flexibility of paying increased insurance premiums so that they can get higher amount of insurance covered. Further, there is a need for extension of insurance to freeze in account withdrawals. Now we know that in the present PMC crisis, the bank has not failed completely. And in this, the RBI has suggested freezing of withdrawals from the account. Now, one problem with this thing is that the insurance is only available when the bank fails. However, in this case of freezing of withdrawals from the accounts, the insurance is not available. And this has made the depositors of the PMC bank more vulnerable. Hence, the author has suggested that whenever the RBI blocks the depositors' access to their money or it freezes the withdrawals from the accounts, at least the insurance coverage amount should be made available to the depositors. Hence, there is a need for extension of insurance to freeze in account withdrawals. And further, there is a need for bringing in private insurers and reinsurers. Now, presently we note that the insurance coverage on the bank's deposits is entirely borne by DICGC or the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. So the author has suggested that there is a need to rope in private insurers to increase competition in this insurance segment. And by increasing participation of the private sector, there will be more accurate risk-based pricing of the insurance policies for bank deposits. And finally, the most important point which has been highlighted by the author is related to the differential premium rates. Now, presently you should note that the DICGC charges a flat 0.1% insurance premium from all banks irrespective of their lending practices. Now, what happens is that the good performing banks such as the public sector banks end up subsidizing the poor performing cooperative banks. And if you look at the past records of the insurance claims, they have mainly been made from the cooperative banks. However, till now the public sector banks have only made 0 claims so far. So the author suggests that the good performing banks should not be forced to pay for the insurance of badly performing banks. Thus, in this line, the author has highlighted that ideally, the DGCIC should charge higher premium rates for banks which involve in riskier lendings or in those banks which involve in lending to those sectors which face higher risks. And by doing this, it would promote good lending practices among the banks in order to reduce the insurance premium. And secondly, it would ensure that good performing banks do not end up cross-subsidizing the poor performing banks. And as we have learned, the public sector banks have been depositing their insurance premium despite performing well and not failing. And we know that most of the insurance have been claimed by the cooperative banks who have not been performing well as compared to the public sector banks. So these are few suggestions which have been provided by the author to increase the safety of bank deposits of the depositors. Now, highlighting the importance of increasing the safety of bank deposits, the author has said that the financial inclusion schemes like Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana actually hinge on the public confidence of the banking system. And if people do not have confidence that their bank deposits are safe, the people would not opt for opening bank accounts or depositing their money with the banks. And thus, the government should take adequate measures so as to ensure the safety of depositors' money, and some of these suggestions should be accepted. With this, let's take up the next article. Now, this article on page number 1 is related to the discovery of a new species of tree frog which has been found from the cities of West Bengal. Now, the uniqueness of this discovery is that it has been discovered from urban spaces of Bengal and not from the forest areas, where generally new species are discovered. So this becomes important and forms a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic General Issues on Biodiversity. So this new frog belongs to the genus Polypedates, and this is considered to be 26 species under this genus Polypedates. And these polypedates are found throughout South and Southeast Asia. And this new species has been named as brown-blotched Bengal tree frog, and which is scientifically named as Polypedates bengalensis. So what is important for preliminary examination is the name of this species and where it has been discovered. And this is unique because it has been discovered from the cities of West Bengal and not from the forest or remote areas. With this, let's take up the next article. Now, this news article on page number 1 highlights that the Supreme Court has ordered ending the stubble burning immediately. And this order of Supreme Court has come in the light of increasing pollution in the national capital Delhi and reducing air quality of Delhi. So this shall form a part of preliminary examination syllabus under the topic General Issues on Environment. Now, various issues related to air pollution in Delhi have been covered in the past DNS videos. And stubble burning is one of the important issues which affects the air quality in Delhi. Also, there are various monitoring mechanisms of air quality of Delhi. For example, there is Air Quality Index and National Ambient Air Quality Standards. Further, there is SUFFER monitoring system, etc. And all these aspects have been covered in the past DNS videos. So in this article, we will mainly look at what is stubble burning and what are the solutions to stubble burning. Now, as we know that the air pollution problem of the national capital is a recurring problem and it has increased in the past 4 to 5 years. So every year there are news articles related to the stubble burning problem and the decreasing air quality of the national capital. So similarly, last year on 12th October 2018, it was covered in the DNS that what is stubble burning and what are the possible technological solutions to this stubble burning. Now, stubble burning means removing the paddy crop residue from the field. And this removal of the residue of paddy crop is required from the fields for sowing of wheat in the Rabi season. Now, in the regions of Punjab and Haryana, the paddy is grown as a kharif crop. And when the paddy crop is harvested, various residues are left over in the field. So, in order to make the fields ready for the sowing of wheat, this remaining residue is burned by the farmers. Now, the problem of residue in the fields arises only when the crop is harvested using what is known as combined harvesting method. However, if the harvesting is done manually, the problem of residue does not come up. Now, what happens in combined harvesting is that it is a machine which harvests as well as threshes at the same time. So this means that it cuts the crop and removes the grain from the straw. Now, one of the problems with this combined harvester is that this machine does not cut close enough to the ground, and as such it leaves a stubble behind which has no use for the farmers. And for making the fields ready for sowing the next wheat crops, the farmers have to burn this stubble. So the quickest and the cheapest solution for the farmers is to clear the field by burning this stubble which is left over due to this combined harvesting method. Now, one of the technological solutions for countering the problem of stubble burning is known as turbo happy seeder. Now, this turbo happy seeder can be used for sowing wheat crops even when the stubble is present in the fields, which means that there is no need for burning the leftover stubble because of combine harvesting method. And this machine is mounted on a tractor, and this not only cuts and uproots the leftover stubble, but it can also drill wheat seeds on the soil that have just been cleared up. Now the advantage of uprooting of the stubble is that this straw is simultaneously thrown over the sown seeds and it forms a kind of mulch cover. And this turbo happy seeder can also be fitted with what is known as the super straw management system or the SMS system. And this spreads the straw evenly in the field. And thus it makes the unusable stubble into a mulch cover, which is actually beneficial for the wheat crop. So this is one of the potential solutions for stubble burning. So the name of this turbo happy seeder can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view as a solution to the stubble burning. Now recently in the DNS of 25th October 2019, the Environment Pollution Control Authority and the Graded Response Action Plan have been covered. And both these are related to the response to the decreasing air quality in national capital. So you can go through this video to understand the Environment Protection Control Authority and how this Graded Response Action Plan works. Further, the three monitoring systems, that is the Air Quality Index, the National Ambient Air Quality Standards and the SUFFER, have been covered in the DNS of 16th October 2019. So you can go through this video to understand the NACS, AQI and the SUFFER. And in today's PDF, you have been provided with the National Clean Air Action Plan. So all these will combine some important information related to the air pollution in Delhi, which can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. And here it is to be noted that a question was asked in the preliminary examination related to the air quality index in the year 2016. So similarly, the NACS and SUFFER become important for us from preliminary examination point of view. Now after today's discussion, you should try and answer these questions and the answer will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the first question reads, which of the following are free trade partners of the ASEAN? And in this you should note that all the three are the partners, that is India, China and Japan, and overall there are 6 free trade partners of ASEAN. So the correct answer is D, 1, 2 and 3. Second question is, Unani system of medicine was introduced in India by which of the following? So as we have learned, it was introduced by the Arabs and the Persians. Third question is that Siddha medicine is practiced in which of the following regions? So as we have learned, it is followed in the Tamil speaking regions. With this we conclude today's discussion. Now let's take up the question for the day.